Okay, so I'm in a hotel right now. They kicked me out of my room. I'm in the hallway. So I'm going to take one earpiece out so I can hear myself and I don't speak too loudly. Um, I'm a little tired from all the Circassian that we just went through because we just finished a class. I'm going to speak in English. So we haven't met in a couple of weeks. I think it's because I'm doing a little bit too much right now. I'm teaching 3 times a week. I'm going to TPRS University as well. I have my day life. We haven't met in a little while, so I thought in today's meeting we can kind of recap what we've learned so far, and we can then reboot and think about where we want to go. So we started meeting with this intention of creating a Circassian course to take people from 0 to some level, and we decided to use TPRS as our method. And I opened up a class, and in total there were 200 people who registered. And in the beginning, we had a total of about 100 people show up. And then about 50 of those people continue to come to class on some sort of rotating basis. I think that's a phenomenal result. I'll tell you why. You may not know this. In my day job, I do a lot with subscription-based services. And whether you're selling a cell phone subscription, a mobile cell phone subscription, or a subscription to a journal or a magazine or Netflix, those are very typical numbers. So what that says to me is we have a very typical result. So I'm very happy about that. What I've done is for my own schedule, I've taken my Monday, Wednesday class and I've made it a 90-minute class only on Wednesdays because my family is just not seeing me. And then we have the Saturday class, which is also a 90-minute class. And so what we have is something that works for people who live in North America and something that works for people who are in Europe. The method, I have a WhatsApp group. There's over 100 people in that group now. They love the method. They love the method because they're seeing results. I even had people say they're learning faster in these classes than they are in their university classes studying French or German or whatever. And that's because of the method. There's nothing special about me or us, it's the method. So the method is good. Now the question, as that's going to come into the group. So now you guys know I have a mobile app business. When we built Optolingo, the way that we think about, and I have a team of 8 people there, so it's not just me. When we think about that business, what we say is we have our content, we have our methodology, and we have our technology, and because it's a mobile app. With what I'm seeing with TPRS and Circassian, it's something similar. We have our content, we have our method, but then we have our structure because we're not using an app, we're using a class. So the method's good. TPRS is good. There's no issue about it. It works. What I was not really happy about was the content. You guys have seen the slides. You guys have seen the videos. Nart is the boy. He's a Nalchik. He wants a pshina. He wants juice. My concern is, and Lydia and Zali heard me say this, but our students, they're very different than TPRS traditional students. Those students are in public school or university. They're studying to go to the next level. They're studying to take an exam. Our people are studying. They're not studying. They want to speak the language with people, their family, their loved ones. They're not going to take an exam. So my concern is they're going to go home. Circassians are hypercritical. They're going to go to their parents, their uncles, their aunts, their grandparents. They're going to say, "Sit with that." And they say, "Not chalas." "Sit
Exactly.
not afwish." So we need to fix the content a little bit. So because of my language business, I do have in English, Arabic, Turkish, Russian, and Kabardian, and in 17 other languages, I have the entire CEFR content set. I have all 16,000 words professionally translated that you need to go to C2. And so I just said, let me focus on A1 because eventually I would like to create a standardized testing, even though we're not doing this for standardized, to be able to identify who has gaps and where they are. So I took the A1 content set and I have from the content development I've done for my mobile app, I have writers, I have freelancers, I have a lot of people. They're working with me to take those those phrases and those vocabulary and turn them into TPRS stories. Each story is designed to be 5, maybe 8 sentences long. You guys saw a rough draft in today's, they're going to get better. I think that's a good rough draft, but it's still a rough draft. So they are going to get better. But what we want to do is create 50 chapters, 50 units, right? And what we want to do is make sure that each one of them has 5 to 15 words in them. And that's how we get into this 500 to 600 words that you need to pass an A1 class. What I've also done is I've taken all of the basic phrases, the most popular phrases from my mobile app, and I put those into the stories as well. So we're working on reformatting that content. So the method is good. Now we got the content. Now part of the content is also the structure of the slides. So I shared these in advance. I can share my screen out if we need to, but I shared the new slides in advance. I did a video walkthrough of it, and then I think Zamina and Lydia just saw the new slides. The students really like the new structure of the slides. And the reason is what I've done is I've taken all those question words that they have, and I just put them all at the top. And I took all of our answer words and I put them at the bottom. And then I redesigned the content and I made sure everything is dual scripted. So everything on the page is written in real Circassian, but then I provide a transliteration, so there's no ambiguity. So that's where we are with that. In terms of where my mind, I just share 2 more things, then I'll open it up for you guys to respond. Where my head is now, I think we need to continue making these slides and making them class by class instead of doing them all in advance, because we're going to see what people like and don't like, and we can tweak them. That's number 1. Number 2, I think what I need to do, I started to do this a little bit, but it's not as structured as I would like. I need to create like a 10-minute TPRS crash course for any teacher who wants to learn. I'll do it in English, then it's got to be in Circassian as well. You know, I'll write it in English, then we can do it in Circassian. That way, anybody, instead of me sitting through 22 hours of teacher training, it's just a 10-minute video, because the basics are very simple. By the way, a lot of TPRS, their university, it's really untraining teachers who have been so ingrained into standardized teaching. So, but I think there's something to be said for that, for just a 10-minute crash course. I think also there's probably a 2-minute video for a student to understand how the slides are structured, because we saw that today. You know, some of the students were like, I don't know how to use the slides. What's this information? So just a 2-minute video that explains the slide, that would be helpful as well. I do think I have a plan to create just a 30-minute training reading video. The one I have on YouTube is great. People like it. But as a precursor to the class, you can go through it and we would use a lot of the same basic vocabulary. I am about 2/3 of the way through. I've invested my own money into an online teaching platform called Kartra. It's kind of like lynda.com or Coursera. It's designed for online courses. It has registration systems in it. It has email reminders in it. So what's going to happen is you can go to a landing page, and the landing page will say, do you want this class or this class? It'll tell you in your local time zone when the class is. And then when you register, it'll automatically bring you into the system. It'll send you a Zoom link. It'll send you a calendar link that you can add to your calendar. So we're just getting a little bit, because people, right now everything is manual that I'm doing. All the email reminders, I do those all manually. Well, they're scheduled, but so I want to make some of this. And then what we've also done in that new system, if you make it to the class, it says, thank you for coming. Here's a link to our YouTube channel. Go check out the video. And if you missed the class, it says, so sorry we missed you. That's fine. We still welcome you to come back, because a lot of people, they text me, they write me, I'm so sorry I missed. I take this seriously. I feel bad now. I don't want people to get discouraged. Life happens, right? So and again, this is my marketing. As a marketer, I'm thinking, how do we make sure these people feel like they're still welcome to come back? So that's what I'm working on. And then I've been thinking about this a lot. And the last thing I'll share with you before I shut up is, right now, this A1 course, I think there's an A0 reading course. And I got an idea for that. This A1 course that we are collectively working on, I think that's the starting point. If we can get that, if we take a year or so to figure out, get all the kinks worked out of it, then we can go to A2, we can go to B1, we can go to B2. And I think we can stop at B2. Once you get to C1, it's very difficult to have a course. It really is just literature. What I am committed to do, what I'm willing to do, I talked to my boss, called my wife, and she's okay with this. And my work schedule is I have some flexibility. Where I want to go with this is, I haven't talked to Hamid about this yet, but I'll talk to Hamid about it. I work with Hamid 3 days a week, and it's me and some American polyglot. and we're going through his B1 course. And actually, he's coming around to TPRS. So what we've done there, it's so cool. There is there's a international story publishing house, and they have this thing called Little Carla. So he's adapted to Little Disa, and he's taken all of her little stories and he's translated into Circassian, clean Circassian. So even like casa, I forget the word he used. He created a word like or like the place where you pay, you know? So he's taking, and it's great, the grammatical sense, the vocabulary, it's really nice. So what we do is we go through each page of that book and we do TPRS, all right? So what's Disa doing? Where is she? Is she lost? Where's her mother? Every sentence, if there's 5 words in a sentence, there's 10 questions you can ask about that sentence. So that's what like an upper level course would look like. And he loves it, and I love it, and this American polyglot loves it as well. So what I want to do is work with the team to develop the A1 lectures. And then in the spring of 2020, when we go to 2022, I want to use my online teaching platform. I want to have a landing page. We can get even more students. I can do real advertising. What I did before, I just put on my own Facebook group. We can get more students. And what I want to do is I will teach Tuesdays and Thursdays in Chicago from 11:30 till 1. Basically, I'll just carve out some time at work where nobody bothers me, and I'll just take an extended lunch as far as they're concerned. But I can have Hamid join me so that if I make a mistake or if I'm not able to make a certain class, I got a backup teacher, right? And that time is not super convenient for me, but it allows me to hit the European-based circuit, Middle East, anybody not outside of North America, right? But what I can do, this is just my own thing, I can work with Hamid Mondays and Wednesdays where he can use those lessons on me. And now he's training as a teacher in TPRS, and any classes he wants to do Monday and Wednesday, we can test drive it, make sure there's no errors, make sure all the questions. Because the other thing I want to do, in addition to building, so you guys saw there's like 6 slides. I want to build a teacher guide where all the questions are pre-written. So that, because it took me 6 classes to get comfortable with asking all those different questions. And I'm not even a native speaker, so I may be making mistakes. So I want to create a teacher slide, a page for every slide, where every question you could ask in the order it should be asked using TPRS methodology is done. So on a Monday, Hamid and I can go through it, make sure those teacher guides are written. And then on Tuesday, I teach, and Hamid is there as an advisor. So Monday, Wednesday, I'm with Hamid test driving. Tuesday, Thursday, we're actually teaching. Wednesday nights, my time, which I have right now, because that works for European, that works for non-North American Circassians. Wednesday nights, so I'll take one evening because my wife and kids have swim lessons. Wednesday nights at the current time, 90 minutes, I'll teach, and then Saturday mornings I'll teach. So what I'm doing is I'm basically trying to make sure that I'm not biting into my own family time, but I'm creating a 90-minute class on Tuesdays, Thursdays for non-North American based Circassians. And then I'm creating another class Wednesdays and Saturdays for Circassians who are, in North America where that time works for them. Now, if we can create, there's January, February, March, April, May, we might go to June. That's 6 months. That's 24 weeks, right? If we can meet 90 minutes per week, that's 36 hours. 36 hours is probably not enough time to go through all 50 lessons, but it's a good experiment to figure out how much time it will take to get through these lessons, because we're tweaking the stories. What we've seen so far with the draft stories that I've rewritten, it's about 6 slides. That's a lot of content to go through using TPRS. We don't get a chance to get to everybody, so we have to experiment with that. The TPRS people say that when you get past 50 hours, if you go through TPRS, even with the limited vocabulary, if you go through 50 hours of TPRS, it's like going, when they've done, there's research on this. It's not just the TPRS people saying this. It's roughly you are out testing people at 2 year of university level. So 50 hours of classroom study with no extra reading, they get better standardized testing results than people who go through 2 years of college. So what's probably going to end up happening is there'll be an A semester and a B semester, right? A fall semester and a spring semester, and you can get 72 hours. 72 hours is above that 50-hour mark that the TPRS people talk about. It's shy of the 100-hour mark, which is their next milestone. But I think it's enough to get someone to a really, really solid level. Then maybe next year we do A2 and B1 and so on and so forth. But right now, what I'm seeing is this basic starting point. People, they love it. They're so excited. They don't feel discouraged. A lot of people write me privately and they're like, when I talk among my friends or family, they laugh at me. But when I'm in your class, I feel comfortable to make mistakes. So if we can bring more people in, that's the best thing I think we can do right now. And then there was one more thing I was going to say. I forget what I was going to say. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking. And I don't know if I've shared this with you guys in the past, but where I'm really trying to go with this, you know, I've had this conversation with Hamid. Hamid thinks there's like 7 million Circassians. And I told him, you may be right. There are probably 7 million human beings who have some genetic link to our people. I personally think there's only 2 million people who will say, I am Circassian. Not my grandfather was, or my father was, who would say, I am Circassian. If I'm correct, and that's a more conservative number, if there's only 1% of them, only 1% of them who want to learn our language, that's 20,000 people, right? So if we can bring the Eastern dialect and the Western dialect, and we can create this online, Lydia, you're the inspiration for this. This is the online school. If we can bring the Eastern dialect, the Western dialect, and just make this such a warm, positive experience with this A1 class where people feel excited and it's entertaining and it's fun and it's interesting and they feel comfortable. My goal is to get, over the next couple of years, 20,000 people who would come to this platform and say, I want to learn. If we can get them to pay $5 a month, that pays for a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm happy to fund this stuff for now, but you need a profit model for this stuff to work in the future. You know, 20,000 people paying $5 a month, it's $100,000 a month. There's a lot of good things we could do with that kind of money, right? So that's my long-term goal. And I don't think it's that long of a term goal, but that's what's going on in my head.
Thank you, Janti. May I jump? Yeah, quickly. So
yeah, I'm done.
This is great actually for long term. Yeah. So let's focus on short-term goals. Ideally, I think what we need to have in the next semester, spring semester, 2 or 3 teachers teaching the A1 level. And you know, Zali and I guess I will have more time in the spring semester actually, as we go closer to Zomafa, to winter. I will clean my schedule to also designate how many 2, is it once a week right now or twice a week? You guys meet for A1?
Right now it's once.
It's once, yeah. So is it once better than 2 times a week? I guess, yeah. Or what's people?
I think 2 is better, but it's about time availability.
Okay, even it's once.
Shorter, maybe.
Okay, even if it's once a week, Zali, if you teach, I teach, and you teach, Janti or Suad, once a week, the same classes, right? A1, so people can split, and maybe you'll get, instead of 20 students, like 10 students in your class, right? So you can reach, or you have 20 and she has 20 and I have, and it's even better. Okay, so, but so what I'm saying is we need to expand a little bit slowly, like little by little. And then maybe in the future we can also open spring, summer, and fall semesters. But this is when we already have the content, all slides, and stuff like that. So right now we are working. And by the way, those slides that you showed today, are these totally new slides? So you will start with those slides. But what's wrong with the older ones? The older ones, I think, also worked. You know, they've learned a lot starting with that vocabulary. You know, so otherwise they wouldn't know. Like, you're not going to use like those the initial ones. Remember, we learned a lot of vocabulary. Yeah. Well, they learned a lot of vocabulary.
All that content is in the new slides, but the new slides also have more question words and more answers. Okay. Because, and part of the reason I did that was it was such a struggle. Every class I'd have to rewrite Delwa and Hawa. So I just put them on the bottom of the slide.
So this Westman, it starts with Westman's others, yeah?
Yeah. Instead of
okay, it starts the same, right? Okay, so the only thing maybe we could introduce those words like Osman Zardash. I know it's about Osman, but maybe one character hijabs and one, well, you said robot or something, somebody else. When there are multiple characters, is
Yes.
even better because people, you know, hijabs. Girls don't identify with Zarda or whatever. So, and then you guys say, for example, today, Noba Zoash, yeah, Egyptu Zoash, Noba Zoash. And then, or what about the opposing word, traba? No, you don't want to introduce that, or?
No, I'm open to it. I'm open. This is.
I jumped into that and then thought, we didn't learn this.
Yeah. No.
Maybe
you
we
know
should think about that. Also introducing the opposite word, right? So they are traba, no, somehow.
No, I agree with you. So a couple things. The way that I'm reformatting the stories is there's I just chose my kids' names just because there's two reoccurring characters. There's Osman and there's Sabina. So they're always in the story, but there's other characters that come in and out of the story as well. There might be a waitress. There might be a taxi driver. There might be somebody who works at a hotel, right? So there's other characters, but there's a male and there's a female, right? And then there's other characters that come in and out. So that is in the works. What you're saying, Lydia, I agree with you. So I consider this just drafts, right? And so we did the first drafts and we got some good results. And then we realized there's more. What we're reading. So this is the number one thing that I'm seeing. There's nobody coming to our class with 0. Nobody. Now that may change in the future, but the implication there is that these people can consume a lot more content than the traditional TPRS documents are designed for. So if you remember, we're like, oh, should we talk to them about cannot do something, can do something? 90% of these people have heard the negation form of verbs. So I actually do think we can introduce more vocabulary into the story. And you know what? We're doing it organically when we talk to them anyways. And that's another example where the slides are getting better. We can make the slides better. I wrote the slide sha'ash, right? I didn't write the word huaba, but the word huaba came out of my mouth. It came out of Zalina's mouth too. It just is naturally coming out of our mouth. And nobody had a problem with it. Nobody had a problem with it. So yes, we need to do more of that stuff. Yes.
Yeah, and also dialogues, maybe introduce more dialogue. So at the end of the lesson, they can go either to the those rooms, right, breakout rooms, and ask each other, you know, create the dialogue in a way so they can have a conversation. Actually, right?
So there's two. So here's the reality, and this is just part of how I built my content for the Optolingo course. I actually have 2 writers that are doing this in English right now. And the reason I always do this, because I don't know who's good or who's not good, but it's a creative process. So by seeing 2 styles, it helps me. One writer has taken this approach of saying, I'm going to tell a story, and then the story ends with a dialogue. So in today's class, we didn't get to it, but we could have, right? The other writer took a different approach, and he said, I want to embed the dialogue in the story. And I originally thought, well, anyways, so I'm going to play with both of these. And this goes back to, drafting the materials rather than finalizing the materials. But the other implication is what I'm seeing so far. I think a 90-minute class is perfect. I did not feel bored. I don't think any of the students felt bored. In fact, the comments from the Wednesday class is that it just flew by. So I think a 90-minute class is perfect. I think that having a system set up where there are 2 teachers, and maybe, like, for example, I agree. Getting somebody to show up 2 times 90 minutes could be a lot, but I think we'll get the best results there. Regardless of whether we do that or not, I think if there's one primary teacher and then another person who's admitting students into the class, putting stuff into the chat, maybe even annotating the slides, writing out content, that's an ideal scenario, because then one person can focus on the teaching and the other person can take notes and also say, hey, you know what, let's update the slide to include huaba. Let's update the slide to take this off, put this on, right? So that's another thing we can do. And it breaks up, and maybe what'll end up happening is one person does the Monday class, primary teacher, and then the assistant, and then they switch so that it's not so much of a burden on one person. But people like the breakout rooms. So the other thing that I'm trying to think of is I'd love to get to the point where we have 2 breakout rooms per class. Maybe one where they experiment with the story itself, and then a second one where they go into the dialogue.
Yeah,
Sounds
well,
good.
yeah, I know it's repetition. It's at the heart of learning the language, right? So, and
Yeah.
you know, you introduce the material, you ask, go around and ask those questions, right? Like triangle and all of that. And then at the end, the breakout rooms gives an opportunity to practice the same, basically,
Yeah.
vocabulary, but with different person. Everyone has to say it. Everyone has
Yeah.
to say something, right? So to
Yeah.
practice that vocabulary, using their own context, you know, their own, you know, like you said, they can come here in order to speak, right? So to speak about their own situations, and that allows them the opportunity to put it
Yeah.
into their own context, right?
And they build relationships.
Right, that's also important.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I don't know, Zali, what did you think? What were your some of the difficulties or challenges that you fought today? You know, you experienced.
Challenge is that actually Janti mentioned that it's good to have all the questions, all possible questions written down already for teacher. I wrote some things, but somehow when I tried, I don't say I was teaching, I was like tried.
You
I
did
just
well.
found
You
that
did
like
well.
I was getting confused because like so many people who to ask, and they still like as Janti, you ask them like from 1 to 5, and with most showed 4, but there was like 2 understanding and stuff. But when you have like this different level, and somehow I was thinking how to make it like more understandable, and that was putting me out of the track. So I think I just need more confidence and more practice, and how to be calmer, because each time when I make some pause or like not speaking, I just feel like, oh God, they will think that I don't know anything, or just, so I just need like to overcome this, because I never taught so many people online, and I mostly work with one-to-one or 2 small groups, and then I know what I'm teaching. Here it's a little bit also my concern that I will be not able to explain things like you do, Janti, because you as native speakers, it's the same with the English.
Yeah, you
If
don't
I
think
ask
about it.
Harry what is present perfect, he will be like, what? You know, or can you explain?
It's the gift.
So
It's the gift I gave you yesterday. It's the perfect present.
yes. And you know, he
Exactly.
did filter with me, but it was me training him, to be honest, explaining stuff, grammar and things to a native speaker. The same with I don't know how confident Lydia is, but I'm a native speaker, but I never thought that it's coming from I'm not putting that, you know. I just, well, when you saying this, I go, oh yeah, that's true. Oh,
Yeah.
really?
The same for me.
Because it came for us like kind of naturally. And
Naturally, yes.
yes.
We
While
don't
you,
think about that.
yes, you really analyze and put it like in like on the shelves.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can do stuff like this, to be honest. And I'm thinking, will it be a problem for, you know?
No. So I would say,
Because
first
they
of all,
love your explanations in the chat, WhatsApp chat.
they do like
They
it.
always ask like this little can you break this word for us and explain? They love it. I see that, and they just admire. Oh, goodness, how can he do that? But no way I can do this.
So a couple things I would say. First of all, you did great today. I'll tell you, when I did my first class, because you guys have an advantage I don't, which is you can speak error-free. In the back of my head, I'm always thinking, wait, did I say shalom or shala? Did I use the ergative case or the accusative? I'm thinking about these things, you know? So you have advantages that I don't. And there's some things I do that are not natural to you, right? That's why we're a team. I think you did great on my first class. I ended and I was like, I need a drink. This is horrible. I had a great script and then it just fell apart. So I think you did great. What we can do, right? So what I'm doing is a real-time lost translation, right? And I actually, Azinat has helped me with this as well. So she can do it, I can do it. what we could do is, instead of doing a vernacular translation, the boy is going home or whatever, I understood, right? Instead of doing a vernacular translation, I can do what's called a gloss translation, which would be sa, I, qiz, to me, went into my heart, parentheses, understood. So by doing the gloss translation, you'll have the breakdown of how to break it apart. And any teacher, because what we're trying to do collectively is build a scalable system. It cannot be, it's not a one-person job. It's got to be materials and methods and training so that we could have, hopefully in the future we have hundreds of teachers, who knows? But that's something I can do that would make it easier for you to break it apart the way I do it.
And one more thing, sorry, Lydia.
Yeah, I just want to say, Zali, Ruslan Srim, I remember he also started this trend of breaking down the words. And at that point, I don't know, Janti, if you know about this trend that started like maybe, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I don't remember, but I was fascinated by that as well. It was a new trend, like Ruslan, Srim, and others, they started like drawing our attention to how this language is structured, how beautifully, you say or something like that. Yeah, that is, before that, we kind of didn't pay attention, I guess. Yeah, it was sort of like we learned it automatically. And then they started to draw attention to these little parts that the language consists of, I guess trying to show the beauty and also the mentality.
It's something we didn't learn at school. And, it's sometimes you discover some of the words in different way, completely. One more thing I wanted to say, that also the transliteration that you write, also as a native English speaker, you can do it well, but I will be not able to do it correctly, probably.
But that's okay too.
My way of
once the slides are
will be different.
No, that's okay too. And you know what? Maybe there's somebody, look, the transliteration, I go back and I'm like, oh my God, I should redo this. I should undo that. But that's okay too, because once the slides are built, right? The slides are built to help them reading, but in speech, you can break down sounds for them. You don't have to worry about the transliteration.
But why can't
just because we need to have them on the slides, and if I introduce something new and I will write it in my own way, that's the only.
Well, that's why we need a reading course. That's why we need like a very short self-study reading course, because what I'd love to do is eventually not do the dual scripting. I'd love to say, take this reading course so you can get the alphabet down and it's not so much scary Cyrillic stuff thrown at you. And then we get rid of the transliteration, which, by the way, makes the slides easier to digest because there's less content on them.
Yeah, more information.
Well, people were very clear on that they are afraid of the Cyrillic alphabet. Some they don't want to learn it. And then I thought it's a great strategy, actually, that you put the transliteration in Latin letters. But my question is, I don't know, guys, what do you think about this? Why can't we just use the Latin alphabet that we have and put, instead of doing that transliteration, just the Latin, right? So is it going to be harder? I think it's supposed to make it a little more easier, no?
So I have a couple of responses to that. First of all, what I've seen in the group chat, and people have privately messaged me to this too, people are putting memes into the group chat and people are sharing little like what and safej. And I've had a couple of people say to me point blank, explicitly, at first I didn't care about reading, but I see these jokes, I see these memes, I see these, and I want to read now. So I think rather than saying, hey, let's give you a crutch so you never have to read, let's open up this idea. Because I'll say it. There's a lot of people who think, oh, this is propaganda. This is something, it's a Russian alphabet. It's a Cyrillic alphabet. It was a Bulgarian monk who created it, not even a Russian person. So we need to get them over this. I think that's one issue. The second one is, I do have concerns about using the Latin alphabet because there have been attempts to Latinize, even the one in 1936 by the Bolsheviks. It does a poor job with diphthongs. There's a lot of things in our language. Even I'm almost done reading all the grammatical textbooks from Homeland. I'm up to number 6, and there's one more, just less 7. This is an eye opener for me. The first half of the first book is designed to untrain your Russian ear to learn the Circassian vowels. Now, as a non-Russian speaker, and for the Turkic speaking and Arabic speaking, we don't need any of that content. But then there's other stuff that's like, you know, this is this is and this is this. So it's very interesting to see that stuff. I've looked at the Latinized alphabet. It does very poor job of diphthongs, because even the current Cyrillic alphabet, I don't realize it and you don't realize it, but like think of the word whoopso. It's a and u at the end, but it makes a sound that doesn't actually exist in the alphabet called o. Whoopso. Any adverbial form has that diphthong. That diphthong, even in our alphabet, is not really correctly presented. And so when you get into that, you have an issue. The other thing is, there's so many crazy people in Turkey who are frankly just anti you know who. And so they want to promote this Latin alphabet. I don't want to be one of those. And I want to open the door to be able to engage in authentic Circassian literature. So there's a number of reasons that I'm very reluctant. Even if you'll notice, I've said many, many times, this is not Circassian. This is a transliteration. I'm very clear. This is not an alternative alphabet. It's a deficient thing. It has drawbacks. It has this, that, and the other thing. So, and then I even gave the example. Somebody said, how do you say qasqaral? So I transliterated qasqaral, and it looks like alphabet soup. It's the sounds that make the language challenging. It's not the letters. So I'm pushing back on that for those reasons.
Yeah. No, I was thinking both, to have both Latin and Cyrillic, but instead of doing that soup, like you said, use the Latin-based, the one that we have, but I don't know how good it is. So I've seen some text in the Latin-based, and after a while I was able to read. Actually, one of the Facebook friends posted some excerpts from texts, like a newspaper clips from back in the days, and I was looking at it, trying to read it. At some point I could actually read, so I was thinking maybe that would be easier on the eye than the one that we are using. It's a good idea, but sometimes I can't read that the whole in Latin letters. And I was thinking maybe we should just use the Latin, whatever we have, but I'm not sure how good is that alphabet actually, or maybe we could make it better. Yeah, so just an idea.
I've had that conversation with John Colarusso. He's the one who told me. He's like, you don't want to do this. This was something that was generated in a couple of months in 1936. The one that's been promoted in Turkey is even worse. And then the other thing that happens, you have to learn a new orthography. The orthography is based on the Latin text, but like if I tell you LH is ch and LH apostrophe is ch, you're still learning something new. The learning curve is lower, but there's more cognitive load, because now you're learning this orthography and you're learning this other orthography. That's why the current alphabet soup, even like, and I feel stupid, right? Like Khonoo, KHWNOO. It looks silly, but it's super easy to understand, even if it is deficient because we have kh and khwa, for example.
So yeah, okay. So by using that, we will be able to reach more, I think, English speaking in the Latin, I guess, based speaking world, because I think I had an impression that people were just afraid of not even for political reasons, but maybe some are, but afraid of the Cyrillic alphabet. It's just, sometimes it looks intimidating, it's just a completely new alphabet.
In future, will we try this method with the children?
Yes. So what I really want to do, I have so many ideas in my head, and we've got this great group. I have this professional group as well, and we talk about this stuff. They're technologists and finance people. And so what we talk about is what does a profit model look like for this endeavor? Because again, I want to model this on the Goethe Institute, right? The other thing is, this method is, I was talking to my wife and I was like, this method is perfect for our language, because we don't like to read. A lot of us don't read, and we don't, I'm not saying we're lazy. We're not lazy people, but there's no economic benefit to Circassian. So what we need is a method. You show up for class, you leave, you're done. Khalas, as they say in Arabic, right? So I think that actually this method, like a B1 level and above, could be perfect for people in the homeland who, like me, have gaps in their ability to speak, but also feel anxious about making grammatically incorrect statements. But there's a children's version of this as well that I think would be great, right? Because I see these things that they do in Nelchik, and God bless them. I'm so happy they're doing something, but it's this repeat after me 10 times, you know, or they memorize something. You see the kids' eyes glaze off. They don't know what they're saying. So this story thing, right? The story thing where it's fun and interesting. And we can even put things like he had a fart and he picked his nose. Even people might criticize us because it's maybe not proper. It's going to get the kids laughing. So I think, yes, there absolutely is something we can and should do here for children. And that can be based, by the way, on so what I'm trying to do with this adult course that we have is I'm building it on the A1 vocabulary set. And I have my phrases, and the phrases all come from Optolingo. I have a shorter version of the phrases. Yes, no, I want, maybe. There's about 20 of them. And what I thought we could do is to build a children's course, we could take sight words. So it's not it's not CEFR, but sight words are, they exist in every language. Psychologists will say that by the age of 3, if your children does not know all of these words, they have some cognitive issues. And it's like ball, hungry, ice cream, butterfly, like just a handful of words, but you know, they've been working up, they update the list on a regular basis. It came out in the 50s. They update it every 3 years or so. Google's not on the list, but maybe internet is. Typewriter's no longer on the list, but computer is. So we could build a very, very simple course around that. The other thing that I have that we can leverage here, some of these words, all of my content, all of my vocabulary words, it exists in databases. So we can actually search through it to come up with short words. So for example, if the word animal is a word on the sight word list, the word for animal would be hachakwacha. Hachakwacha is this big when you write it out. So that's a shorter word, right? So we can search through. If we find a word in English that's this big, we can look for a synonym and try to find a shorter word, and we can swap those words out. That's another thing that we can leverage here.
Okay, for the future, like nearest future, sorry, what can we do and help with?
That's a great question.
New slides, any translation, or just to focus on teaching for now?
What I think would be very helpful, I have now 10 stories that have been written by each writer. I need to figure out which approach makes the most sense. I'll share this stuff with you guys. Do we want an approach where there's a story and then a dialogue at the end of the story? Or do we want a story where the dialogue is embedded in the story? And I think part of the answer there is, how do we want to structure these 90-minute classes? Because by having the dialogue embedded in the story, it actually feels more natural. You know, Osmond's in the city. Osmond is thirsty. So he goes up to a waitress and says, and then you have a phrase, right? It's more logical. But structuring the class the way I just talked about, where you have a breakout session for the story and then a breakout session for the vocab, and you have an A and B dialogue. How are you? I'm fine. Where are you from? Blah, 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 right? So I want to share the content with you guys. So I'm not a dictator. I don't want to be a dictator. This stuff, it drives me crazy. What I'd like to do is engage you guys in the content and see what you guys think. And then once we decide what we want to do, you guys can help with the translation. And I think what I've also seen, we had the original translation, they gave us slides, and then it was hard to translate because you had to monkey around with the slides. This content is coming in Microsoft Word. So it's going to be, we can separate the design element from the translation element. If you guys can help with the translation, I can do the design. And Sarad, we've got to find a way to get your dialect in here too, because it's too Kabardian centric. I have had probably a third of my students say, this is awesome, but I want to learn Western dialect, so I'm not going to come to class. So we need to cast as wide a net as possible. Eventually, I hope in the future, you know, there's a Turkish version of this, there's an Arabic version and a Russian version of this. But right now it is English centric, and that's okay. But we need to get both dialects, and we have to have, it cannot be just you, right? We've got how many? We've got 9 people in this group, and there's only you and one other person who are Western people. We need more people to do Western dialogue.